Welcome to the Badass Dad podcast, where we are a band of brothers committed to forging stronger fathers. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode. This is being brought to you by the generous donations of the people who have made contributions at our website, which is BadAssDads.org, BadAssDads.org. You can also find some promotional shirts and other ways to support the podcast as well. But just want to thank you guys so much for your support. Enjoy this episode. Welcome to the BadAss Dad podcast. KDH here on the microphone. So very excited to be back in the IronYetiStudios, and across the table with me is Stephen DeShriver. Stephen, how you feeling?
Fantastic, Kevin. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Just had the missus on the mic here. You know, that was fun.
You did. She did really well.
She did.
You guys had a great back and forth, a good banter going.
You know what? I've been like, people are going to say, like, stop talking, Kevin, and just let Stacy talk, I'm sure, is the biggest feedback we're going to get. But man, just so appreciative of her insights and, you know, education and everything. But, you know, here we are. What are we, like 5 weeks into the social isolation? What do they call it?
Social distancing. The stay-at-home orders.
Stay-at-home orders.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, at least in my county, in Douglas County, they have lifted it. So today was, you know, we're allowed to get out. And I think some of the other local areas are still, you know, pulling back a little bit. But I want to talk a little bit about, you know, this season right here that we're in. And also, you know, Jacob, my oldest, I've been talking about for a while, you know, just turned 13 years old. So I want to talk a little bit about that and, you know, really what an important season it is for a young man, and, you know, not to miss this moment, you know, not to miss this chance, especially, you know, I think it'd be easy just to discount and say, you know, we can't really get everybody together because of blah, blah, blah. So, you know, we'll do it next year or whatever. But, you know, I'm going to share just some of the things that I did with him, and Gretchen and I did. And I don't know, maybe give some thoughts for people and just have some fun. So, and I got Stephen here, you know, he's going to get a chance to ask me some questions as well. But, you know, so here's one of the things I did. I knew his birthday was coming up. We were obviously very, you know, his birthday's in mid-April. So, you know, we're a good month into the pandemic and the you know, social distancing and not being able to get out and not being able to do a party like we used to do. And I'll tell this kind of funny story to begin with, you know, why this is so important to us. So we adopted Jacob when he was 4 years old. So for his 5th birthday was the first birthday that we got to celebrate with him. And we were, gosh, what were we? Probably 9 months into our relationship once we finally got to have his birthday. And so at that point, Gretchen and I, you know, when we got Jacob, we'd been married 14 years, no kids. And when we got him, there was a lot of kid stuff built up inside of us that was just waiting to come out. So for his 5th birthday, we had it at our house. We used to live out on 5 acres. And so we had over 150 people were there. We had a...
Sounds like a wedding.
Yes. We had a DJ that was there. I had bought a 4 foot tall, which it was taller than him, Spider-Man piñata that we had. I had spray painted on our back lawn these big circles so that we could play like giant Twister out there. I mean, it was totally nuts. I mean, I've never been to a kid's birthday party that was like this, but it had just been years and years and years just built up. So I say a lot just to say that, you know, birthdays have been important, you know, for us with our kids, not so much with Gretchen and I individually, but with our boys. And so, you know, here it was, and I see 13 as a really big one. And I told Jacob over this last year, I said, you're really now entering the time of life that I remember. Like, I remember now, you know, being a teenager. I mean, Bentley being 9, I remember playing basketball and soccer and swimming and baseball, but I don't really remember it. But now he's at that age where I remember it. And, you know, our culture just has not been one, at least that I've grown up in, that has, you know, put an emphasis on some rites of passage or one phase to the next. And, you know, I know that the Jewish faith has done a phenomenal job over, you know, forever, as far as I know, recognizing boys becoming men with their bar mitzvah. And I just think it's an important phase. And so I had all these grandiose plans that we'd be able to do, be able to get people together. I'd read a book called Raising Modern Day Night, and I was like, oh man, we're gonna be able to do this. And, just the timing of things didn't work out for us to be able to do it. So I want to share a little bit about what we actually did for his birthday. So it was on a Saturday, about a week and a half ago. And so we got up and, the weather, it wasn't super warm, but it wasn't cold. So he and I went out on a hike. And at first he was a little concerned because usually when dad and, 12 before, but 13-year-old son left the house, the two of us, and we kind of, dressed the way we were dressed, it was going to be some kind of physical workout. And so he wasn't overly excited about that. But we ended up going to a local park, where there's some trails, and kept our distance from everybody, but I had set it up for us to be able to get to some certain places, and we got to a little bluff where we're overlooking and down I don't know, probably 30 feet. It was if he fell off the cliff, it's going to do some damage. But we got to the edge and had a chance to sit down and talk about what this means to be a teenager, what it means to, be moving into becoming a man. And so, I wanted to give him a little something to signify this season for him. And, I'd kind of gone back and forth with different things. I was like, do I give him a ring? Do I give him what? Well, I'm not a big jewelry person myself, but I have one necklace that I actually wear with the leather strap and everything. And so, which really just meant a lot to me. And all it really has is it has two circles, and one's a bigger circle and a smaller circle inside there. And I'd share with Jacob what it symbolized to me, which, one of the things in jiu-jitsu, I kind of adopted it from there also was, you need to be the smaller circle, because if you're a smaller circle, you move faster than other people. But that was a little from the jiu-jitsu side, but it also reminded me that, my relationship with God, I need to remember to be the small circle, because, I many times want to have control and be the big circle. But the one that I gave to him was similar, had a leather strap to it, but it had two equal size circles. And so I share with him some spiritual things that he and I had talked through. But then, I share with him the one that is connected to this rope is him. And then the other circle that is connected to his circle, okay, you can imagine the two are connected, is me. And so now they're of equal size. And so letting him know that now I see him, not as less than me, but he is moving into being initiated as a man, and that he is going to have different responsibilities and in how I see him and how I communicate with him. And, before, I love what how Greg Gunn taught us the progression, in relationships. And, when they were younger, we're the cop, we are here to protect and serve, don't run in the street and all this. But now, for me in this relationship is really to coach him through this phase. And, we started having some conversations. I love the illustration once again that Greg used, which was, and I told Jacob this also, but now you're going to be navigating a boat down a very rocky river. And I've been down this river, and I'm going to help you by pointing out some of the big, dangerous rocks that are out here. But it's going to be your responsibility in how you steer and who you listen to. And so my hope, my goal, my wisdom is going to be to keep you away from these rocks. But in the end, you're going to have control over, where this vessel goes. And I'm never going to take the wheel away from you. And so we ended up having a conversation about that. We talked about, the 5 major rocks, dealing with drugs and alcohol and education and, sex and, friends, and getting, involved, heaven forbid something would happen with law enforcement or something like that, being on the wrong side of that. So we had some conversation, and it was a wonderful time. We got a picture together. And then I presented him also a wonderful little journal that I'd written some things in. And then what I had done previous to this is I had texted a couple dozen buddies of mine that had kids that had walked through this process already, that are already through their teen years. And I wanted them to share just a blessing. And, something with Jacob, it could be some words of encouragement. It could be some insights. It could be, I got to tell you, one of my absolute favorite ones was from one of my former players who is now 40 years old. So he's actually a little bit older than you, okay? So Brian Spence. And so he had shared some things. And it was so great because I met Brian when he was Jacob's age. And so the things that he wrote about, I met your dad, at this time, and had some wonderful things to say about me, which was so great. And I'm really appreciative. But the thing that was great is, he says, Jacob, we have some things in common. I'm sure we haven't always agreed with your dad, and we probably yelled at each other a time or two. So I was like, it was good for Jacob to see that, that side as well. And but it was so much fun. But what I ended up doing was I took all these messages, and I'm still in the process, but then I went in and I started handwriting them into this journal. And I did it, and I kind of went back and forth how I do it, but I ended up doing it, and then I would skip, several pages, and then I write another one, skip several pages, and write another one. And I wanted this to be a living, breathing document. So originally I was going to just have it done and then do was it like Shutterfly or something like that could do one that would be remembered. But by me handwriting it allowed it to be a little more living and breathing, where Jacob will be able to write some things in it. I'll be able to write some things in it over the years. And hopefully, I don't know, by the time he's 33 or 43, he may appreciate some of the things. Because he's probably, at 13, I don't know if he's ever going to read them. We've read a couple of them together. But he's going to have that opportunity to carry it on. And, one of the reasons why this is so important for me is, I not growing up with a dad, I didn't have an example for that. And I was just like, I want to have something. I want to have some kind of legacy, that gets left to him. And, maybe some books or money or what that stuff, but something that was really personal to me. And, it's funny because Gretchen and I were just the other day telling the story, but when Gretchen's great-grandfather came over on the boat from Sweden, then he came to Rockford, Illinois, and when he got there, they had a farm, and they had a hand pump, one of these big cast iron hand pumps. You can get water out, and is stamped, has the year, has everything, says Rockford, Illinois on there. Well, we are now in the possession of that. And so this thing's like over 100 years old. And, for my family, I just haven't had any of that. I have my grandmother's grandfather clock, maybe call it grandmother clock, but I have that clock, and that's the one thing that is really near and dear to me. But nothing else that kind of signifies that. But I thought, maybe this book would be one of those things. And so I'm going to share just a few of the things that I love that the guys wrote. And there was a common theme throughout a lot of it. But, one of them that I got, and is so good, because as these blessings these guys were writing, or these words of wisdom and insight that they were writing, I was also taking it this way, that these are the things that I need to be speaking over my son, and that I need to be reminded of as well. And so, one of the very first one is to be you. And it was, to me, instead of him trying to be a mini me or being someone else, just for him to develop his own voice. What was it Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. And, I feel like one of my roles right now in this season, in these next 5 years, that I get to, really have hopefully a significant voice with him, is to help him discover who he is, and to encourage him to speak his voice. Now, his voice is probably going to have a little bit of tenor of mine, a bit, from mom as well, other coaches, teachers, influencers, friends. But there's going to be some of that. But most importantly, for him to be able to develop that strength within himself, and just to be able to be himself. The other one that came up very, very common, and I guess, and I don't know if it's just, in light of the COVID-19 or what, but, dealt with adversity, and how are you going to deal with adversity? And, I love this. I just recently heard this was, there's two types of leaders that are out there. There are wartime leaders and there are peacetime leaders. And, peacetime leaders they're a dime a dozen, but you really want to see what leadership is it's in wartime. And so, right now, we have this, war on disease or whatever it is that is, incredibly important. And, as I've asked these guys questions, in the some 50 some odd interviews that we've done, podcasts we've released, most of the time I've asked the question, the statements are, the 1880, by the time your child reaches age 18, You'll spend 80% of the time with them that you're ever going to spend. And then the question coming back is, so what are 3 things you want to teach? And so, one of the things that I wanted to teach, that I want to teach my boys, is how to take a punch. And that was the metaphor that I used, because adversity is going to strike us all at some point. It could be a health issue. It could be a financial issue. It could be a relational issue. It could be a spiritual issue. It could be some issue is going to, and we're going to have to deal with, but we're going to have to learn to deal with adversity. And so, putting the boys in a situation. So one of the things that, because of this and the education and everything else going on, Jacob and a good buddy of his, Frankie, are out, and they started their own lawn care business at age 13. And, it's kind of cool. What a great experience, 13, and how different it was than back in the day. For me, it was go back and knock on doors to get clients, okay, or whatever. They did a little Facebook thing in the neighborhood, and then they get like 30 customers. And so here it is, 4 days in a row, they started 4 days ago, and they have not made less than $200 per day. So $100 for each boy. So $400. So I'm just sitting here going, if someone's struggling out there, and I think, I don't know, we could have a debate on, should the government give money or what, whatever. Get out there and hustle, man. This is great. And to see these 2 boys get out there doing it, dog tired at the end of the day, which is absolutely wonderful. But they're dealing with some adversity. They're learning to deal with, they had one, tough, customer that, was kind of, chewing their butt because they were a little bit late. Not late because they were sleeping in, late because they spent more time working on another, house that they wanted to get it done right, and it took longer than they thought. But it was great. What a great lesson for them to learn. So the other thing that I love, and actually, Justin Dodge actually had shared this, and it was, and I've heard him say this 1,000 times, which is, play hard and have fun. And, the competitive world that we live in, whether it's academics, athletics, or even in the marketplace, it is easy to lose sight of, playing hard, which to me, that means you play hard, but you play fair, but you got to have some fun with it too. Hopefully we're going to get to play football this year. And so this is, this 8th grade year that these guys are going to be in, and I get to coach these guys one more time. And I've told all the dads that we've had a conversation with us, like, this is like our last chance to really touch these boys, because, and I'm not talking about for me, I'm talking about the dads collectively, because, once they get into high school, it's hands off. High school coaches do not want mommy or daddy, there. And so I've kind of opened it up, for our dads to be as involved as they want to be, whether it's practice and other stuff. Now, I do have the last voice, and, and Aaron, who runs the defense, he handles that side. But, I think that's an important lesson to learn, is just to play hard and have fun. And play hard I think is important. Don't lay down. Don't just take it, whether that's, in business, getting out there and prospecting and developing new clients. Play hard, get after it. Like be aggressive, get off your butt and go make a play, make something happen. If there's a turnover, then don't have a second mistake. If you miss a sales call, man, get your skills better and get right back up. Don't be afraid of the phone. Whether it's asking your girl out, you like, hey, there's plenty of other girls out there. Let's go ask someone else, or maybe that's a bad analogy, but just something out there and getting after it. So, the other one that I love that many guys shared also was understand, and I really hope that if Jacob does listen to this, or any boys, any kids that get a chance to listen to this, that you understand that mom and dad really do love you. And here's the backside of that. They may not always like what you do, but they love you. And you're going to make some mistakes, and you're probably going to tick off mom and dad. And you know what? They may even yell at you, but that does not in any way change the fact that mom and dad love you dearly. Even if mom and dad aren't getting along, mom and dad love you as a child. So just know that. Know that in your heart of hearts, there's nothing you're going to be able to do that is going to be able to stop your mom or dad from loving you. Now, they may not like you, but they will always love you. And last one I will share, this actually came from several people also. was just the importance of having friends. And way before your time, so back in the 80s, there was this group called Houdini, and they actually had a song called Friends, and it was like, the line was, friends, how many of us have them? And that, I think that is so true, and we realize now as we get older and older and older, and the years pass by, that having relationships are incredibly important, and it becomes more challenging. And I think you'd agree, Stephen, that, during this season of social distancing, one of the most, destructive things I think that has come about it is the distance that we've had in just relationships. But I think as things are lifted and we're able to connect, we're going to connect on a deeper level. I know even for myself, I have reached out to people over the last couple of weeks, even just as simple as sending a text message, people that I have not followed up with. I sent a text message to a guy that I had not spoken to in more than 2 decades. And how in the world I even had his number, I don't even know. But this was a guy that I love. I love this man. His name is Earl Garland. I got to coach with him way back in the day in my 20s, and he is one of the most influential men of character that helped to shape my life, my view of the world, my relationships, my relationship with God, parenting. I mean, all these different things. And for whatever reason, man, I did such a crappy job of following up and staying in touch. But anyway, we ended up having a 45-minute conversation, and we reconnected, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And, I just say all that to go, man, friends are incredibly important. And, I can't remember who I was talking to, but it was someone I was talking to recently, and we were talking about isolation leads to destruction. And I think that is critical in the mental health, not only of our teenagers and younger, like if I have a 9-year-old who's really a teenager already in this thought process, but also with ourselves. And that kind of brings me to the last point that I want to make, is that I believe one of the really big responsibilities as a badass dad is for us to initiate, or sort of to invite and to initiate our boys into our world. And so, if you're in law enforcement, then that means you're going to bring them into that world of law enforcement. If you're in the ministry, maybe you're bringing them into the ministry. If you're in military, if you're a business owner, Jacob and I have been having so many conversations about business and he and Frankie's lawn care business. I was going to say little business, not a little business. Those dudes are making some coin. But being able to teach them about things that I do, that I understand. I mean, if I went back, to my early days when I was teaching and coaching, my boys would have grown up in the gym, on the field, at the athletic complex. Not my world the last 20 years, but they would have grown up in there. But I have not been as vocal in sharing with them the world that I'm in, and I have been, the last several years. So, then that coupled with, going to their world also, on that. So for Jacob's birthday, I then gave him power tools. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Which is so funny because literally the first thing I had him do, like when he opened the box, I said, okay, Jacob, like put your hands up. So he's putting his hands up. I said, you see those 10 fingers? Yes. Okay. Our goal is to keep those 10 fingers. Okay. This is an area that is so far outside of my comfort zone. I mean, I am not comfortable with that. I don't know how to do those things. And not so much that I don't know. I don't have experience doing them. So it's so great for me to be able to, a buddy of ours, Ryan Owens, Ryan, got together, got a couple boys, and they were building a chair for this little baby's chair for one of our friends, Aaron and Benta Clark. So, built them a little baby chair for their new daughter that they just adopted. Frank is doing some other stuff, with the boys, and it's just his area of expertise that is so good. And that's why, my tagline has always been, it's been forging stronger fathers, but it's having a band of brothers to forge stronger fathers, so that someone's not only got your back, but can also fill in the gaps, maybe for where you just don't have the expertise, and that's okay. It's okay not to know. So a lot of rambling there, Stephen. I didn't even let you talk, but
I'm gonna jump in here.
Yeah.
So kind of a couple of things popped up. So this is all, like, this entire birthday, 13 is a major transition year. You talked about building character. I always go back to when you when he's under stress and pressure, what you put in now is what's going to come out.
That's great.
So when you squeeze the orange, make sure you're putting orange juice in the orange when he's young. But this is also, and I'm sure other fathers listening to this are thinking about this. It's not just a transition for Jacob. It's a transition for you. And I witnessed this, in person a little bit ago. But right now, you are the protector. You are the provider. And that is transitioning to Jacob becoming the protector and the provider.
Yeah.
And you will slowly transition into more of a role of a sage or the wise old man. How are you doing with that?
Man, first of all, tremendous insight. And, once again, why I loved having you on the mic here with me. Gosh, a little hard. I mean, it really is. It's a little hard. I was kind of surprised. I picked up the tissue to really just wipe my nose, not because I was crying, but I was kind of surprised because I really thought I would be an emotional wreck. Talking about this subject. And I mean, it's been hard just letting go of the childhood, and there's still a lot of bleed over, it's not like I told him, hey, you got to go get a job and you're paying. Well, I did say you need to start paying rent, but he said, I'm not paying rent. I'm like, okay, well, you're not paying rent. But
he knows how to negotiate. That's fantastic. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. But understanding, this is that transition. And, I try to, I keep reminding myself, and I should say, I was going to say, I try to keep reminding myself because I'm trying to, but I need to just do it. Understanding that this is a very, very short season, and that if I do this season really well, then the next season, when he doesn't have to be around, he'll still want to be around. You've heard me say it a dozen times or more. I want my boys to be around, want to be around when they no longer have to be around. And if I do this challenging season, which there's moments that it's challenging, then he's going to want to be around when he could just as easily go, screw you, I'm out of here and I'm moving to Alaska.
And the other thing you're going to and I've also seen this as well. If you do a good job, he's going to develop his own opinions and his own thought processes and his own ideas. And just like you mentioned Greg Gunn, in the ship, in the boat, he's going to hit a couple rocks.
Yeah. So I got to tell you.
How do you do?
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's what I'm telling you. This is where, and I'm saying trying, and I hate to say trying because, if you're trying, you're dying. I mean, you got to either do it or don't do it. But where I'm trying to catch myself is when I'm asking him a question that really is either using some critical thinking or his opinion or something like that. I really am working hard, not 100%, but I'm really working hard to go, don't come over the top. Don't invalidate his opinion. Let him work through the logic of it. Maybe go, okay, here's a pivot on this, or I hear what you're saying, or go, okay, how did you come up with that? And some of that's it. Just going, okay, where does that come from? And it is so hard because my immediate response is, no, you're wrong. Here is the right answer.
And you might be wrong, but that's fine.
Yeah.
And like you said, and that's got to be incredibly difficult because you want to fix it, you want to correct it. No, 2 + 2 is not 5.
Yeah.
And it's hard to sit back and say, how did you get there?
Yeah.
And he might have great reasons, and he might, share some insight with you as well as to how he got there. But it's incredibly difficult. I hear you.
Well, some of that, I think you're exactly right. Is just going, is this really just, old dog trying to learn new tricks? Or, I had a great mentor of mine, Mark Marchesani, share with me really the difference between strategy and style, and understanding that you need to have a good strategy to be successful, but the style in which you may do it may look a little different than someone else's. It's almost like be strong in strategy and, hold true to, what it work. But then the style, the flavor that someone brings to it, let them do that. And, if there's anything I can say, I've been guilty of going, no, I like my style because I do like my style. but giving him giving Jacob enough breath to be able to go, yeah, but Dad, I like this flavor a little bit better. That sometimes is hard for me.
Yeah. And yeah. and maybe the last thing and I don't need to remind you, but he's also 13 and he's going to be 15, 16. You have 5 years.
Yeah.
Until he's 18, he's off in college, he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
And he's going to, I don't know, he's going to appreciate different things. He's going to maybe have a bigger heart. I mean, there's an old saying about, if you're under 25 and, you're not, just caring for the world, you're heartless. And then if you're over 30 and you're not fiscally conservative, you're a moron. But so he's going to go through that phase of loving everything, and that's okay. I remember I was actually going to join the Peace Corps, and my college roommate's like, Steve, what I'm going to do for you? Yeah, I'm going to go out in the backyard. I'm going to plant a tree. And you can go hug it all day. Yeah. But it's one of those things. Like we evolve our thought process. But I'm really glad you did that. I think that's going to be a great ritual. You're setting the standard for what the rituals look like with Jacob's kids, and then so your grandkids, and then your great grandkids, and you may never see it. And that's going to be another thing. And you had mentioned this, but the whole delayed gratification of this book, you may never see it. It may go into a box. Yeah. And he'll love it for in the next couple of years, but it may go into a box. But when he's 40, he's going to pull it out of the box and be, holy crap, this is some good stuff. Yeah.
Hopefully he'll be able to read it. My handwriting is horrendous. He was already making fun of me on that. And then I had him write some things. I was like, dude, you don't even know how to spell, so leave me alone. But gosh, I do want to share one other thing. And I've shared this before on the podcast is, I had another buddy of mine, Darius Wise, that had texted me, because I had him contributing. He goes, hey, my son just turned 13, a month ago, would you do this, for us? And, one of the things I wrote to Daniel was, I said, the best way for you to honor your mother and father, like we believe that's important, honor your mother and father, but the best way to honor your mother and father is to love your siblings. And so, I once again stole this directly from Greg Gunn, but I was like, Jacob, your responsibility now more than ever is you are the team captain for Bentley, your little brother who's 9, and everything that you do, he's watching, good or bad. When you mess up, what do you do after you mess up? You're going to. What do you do with that? When you have victory, how do you handle that? When you make money, how do you handle that? When you lose money, how do you handle that? All those different things. When some girl breaks your heart, so all of those different things, how are you going to handle it? And understanding that there's you actually being a older brother, 4 years older, you actually have more influence on Bentley than I do. And so, in a good, healthy way, challenging him there, and just so that he understands that, and just that we're on this together, and that, his choices are his choices, but his choices don't only affect him. So
that's a great life lesson.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a great life lesson.
I wish I could apply it to myself as well. So, well, good. Anything else, Stephen?
No, I think hopefully somebody got some ideas.
Yeah. Great. Well, hey guys, just wanted to thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you listening to this. We want to grow our platform here. So, if you could like, subscribe, share, do all those wonderful things. If you don't like it, then don't do any of that stuff. Okay. Don't give me any negative messages, because my fragile ego wouldn't be able to handle it. But, if you do like it, if there's some of it, hey, hit me a message. Let me know if you want to hear some more certain content. We covered a little stuff with Stacy just on education, and so I'm not sure the order will come out, but you'll get a chance to hear that as well, and just the new climate of education moving forward as well. But we want to continue to hit the topics you guys want to hear, and if there's someone you'd like for us to interview, man, let us know if there's a connection you want to make on that as well. So we would love that. So you can connect with us at our website, BadAssDads.org. You could hit me. I think my email address is on there too, but it's just KDH as in Kevin Davis Harper, kdh@badad.org, and send me an email, and I'm sure I will check that once a month and hit you back. Instagram, I have really done a horrible job at Instagram.
You were so good for a long time.
I was. Well, then
so good.
Okay, I was so
sick. Proud of you.
I got sick, and then I just totally just abandoned it all. So now that I'm all better, who knows? We'll see what happens.
Every day.
Yeah. All right. Hey, be a badass dad. Have a badass week, and we are out. Hey guys, I want to thank you guys again just for listening to this episode of Badass Dads. Hey, if you found this episode helpful, if it's beneficial, if it's shareable, man, we'd love for you to pass it on to someone. Previous episods you can check out on our podcast page, on iTunes, on Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, check out our website, badad.org. That's badad.org. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram pages. So please, love the support. Check all that out. Let's get this movement going. And we are committed to forging stronger fathers. Be a part of the movement. We're out.